Good afternoon, everyone. I am Hanime OLLAGUE. So today I will discuss the important implication of teaching, professional practices needed, benefits of constructivism to teaching and learning, what a teacher can do in a constructivist classroom, and how does this theory differ from traditional ideas about teaching and learning. Important implication to teaching. First, teaching cannot be viewed as the transmission of knowledge from enlightened to unenlightened. Constructivist teachers do not take the role of the sage on the stage. Rather, teachers act as guides on the side, who provide students with opportunities to test the adequacy of their current understanding. So, here at the constructivism, the teacher must not in front of the students to teach or teacher-centered. Instead, the teacher is the one who will guide his or her students. Second, if learning based on prior knowledge, then teacher must note that knowledge and provide learning environments that exploit inconsistency between learners' current understanding and the new experiences before them. This challenges teachers, for they cannot assume that all children understand something in the same way. Further, children may need different experiences to advance to different levels of understanding. So here, the teacher must note that knowledge and provide a learning environment to the learners that are not the same way of understanding. Third, if students must apply their current understanding in new situations in order to build new knowledge, then teachers must engage students in learning, bringing students' current understanding to the forefront. Teachers can ensure that learning experiences incorporate problems that are important to students, not those that are primarily important to teachers and the educational system. Teachers can also encourage group interaction, where the interplay among participants helps individual students become explicit about their own understanding by comparing it to that of their peers. So, the teacher must engage the students to the actual situation or play by interacting to their peer so that they can understand their new knowledge. Fourth, if new knowledge is actively built, then time is needed to build it. Ample time facilitates student reflection about new experiences, how those experiences line up against current understanding, and how a different understanding might provide students with an improved or not correct view of the world. Professional practices needed. If learning is a constructive process and instruction must be designed to provide opportunities for such construction, then what professional development practices can bring teachers to teach in student-centered way? First, recognize that construction in learning is not just the domain of children but of learners, all learners. Constructivist professional development give teachers time to make explicit their understanding of learning. For example, is it a constructive process? For teaching, for example, is a teacher an orator or facilitator, and what is the teacher's understanding of content? And of professional development, for example, is a teacher's own learning best approached through a constructivist orientation? Furthermore, such professional development provides opportunities for teachers to test their understanding and build new ones. Training that affects student-centered teaching cannot come in one-day workshops. Systematic, long-term development that allows practice and reflection on that practice is required. It is also useful to remember the educator's maxim, teachers teach as they are taught, not as they are told to teach. Trainers and constructivist professional development session models learning activities that teachers can apply in their own classroom. It is not enough for trainers to describe new way of teaching and expect teachers to translate from talk to action. It is more effective to engage teachers in activities that will lead to new actions in classrooms. Constructivism represents one of the big ideas in education. Its implications for how teachers teach and learn to teach are enormous. If our efforts in reforming education for all students are to succeed, then we must focus on students. Up until now, a focus on student-centered learning may will be the most important contribution of constructivism. Benefits of constructivism to teaching and learning. Benefit number 1, children learn more and enjoy learning more when they are actively involved rather than passive listeners. Benefits number 2, education works best when it concentrates on thinking and understanding rather than on rote memorization. Constructivism concentrates on learning how to think and understand. Benefit number 3, constructivist learning is transferable. In constructivist classrooms, students create organizing principles that they can take with them to another learning settings. Benefit number 4, constructivism gives students ownership of what they learn, since learning is based on students' questions and explorations, and often the students have a hand in designing the assessments as well. Constructivist assessment engages these students' initiatives and personal investments in their journals, research reports, physical models, and artistic representations. Engaging the creative instincts develops students' ability to express knowledge through a variety of ways. These students are also more likely to retain and transfer the new knowledge to real life. Benefit number 5, by grounding learning activities in an authentic, real-world context, constructivism stimulates and engages students. Students in constructivist classrooms learn to question things and to apply their natural curiosity to the world. Benefit number 6, constructivism promotes social and communication skills by creating a classroom environment that emphasizes collaboration and exchange of ideas. Students must learn how to articulate their ideas clearly as well as to collaborate on tasks effectively by sharing in group projects. Students must therefore exchange ideas and so must learn to negotiate with others and to evaluate their contribution in a socially acceptable manner. This is essential to succeed. This is essential to success in the real world, since they will always be exposed to a variety of experiences in which they will have to cooperate and navigate among the ideas of others. What a teacher can do in a constructivist classroom. Constructivist teachers encourage students to constantly assess how the activity is helping them gain understanding. By questioning themselves and their strategies, students in the constructivist classroom ideally become expert learners. This gives them ever-broadening tools to keep learning. With a well-planned classroom environment, the students learn how to learn. You might look at it as a spiral. When they constantly reflect on their experiences, students find their ideas gaining in complexity and power, and they develop increasingly strong abilities to integrate new information. One of the teacher's main rules becomes to encourage this learning and reflection process. So for example, groups of students of St. Marcelline in grade 11 science class are discussing a problem in physics. Though teacher Imelda knows the answer to the problem, she focuses on helping students restate their questions in useful ways. She prompts each student to reflect on and examine his or her current knowledge. When one of the students comes up with the relevant concept, teacher Imelda says upon it and indicates to the group that this might be a fruitful avenue for them to explore. They design and perform relevant experiments. Afterward, the student and the teacher talk about what they have learned and how their observation and experiments help or did not help them to better understand the concept. Contrary to criticisms by some conservative or traditional educators, constructivism does not dismiss the active role of the teacher or the value of expert knowledge. Constructivism modifies that rule so that teacher helps students to construct knowledge rather than to reproduce a series of facts. The constructivist teacher provides tools such as problem-solving and inquiry-based learning activities with which students formulate and test their ideas, draw conclusions and inferences, and pull and convey their knowledge in a collaborative learning environment. Constructivism transforms the students from a passive recipient of information to an active participant in the learning process. Always guided by the teacher, students construct their knowledge actively rather than just mechanically ingesting knowledge from the teacher or the textbook. Constructivism is also often misconstrued as a learning theory that compels students to reinvent the wheel. In fact, constructivism taps into and triggers the students' innate curiosity about the world and how things work. Students do not reinvent the wheel but rather attempts to understand how it turns, how it functions. They become engaged by applying their existing knowledge and real-world experience, learning to hypothesize, testing their theories, and ultimately drawing conclusions from their findings. Constructivist teachers pose questions and problems, then guide students to help them find their own answers. They use many techniques in the teaching process. For example, they may prompt students to formulate their own questions or inquiry, allow multiple interpretations and expressions of learning or multiple intelligences, encourage group work and the use of peers as resources or collaborative learning,